you didn't use a lot of jargon, right? And I think that's really important. A lot of people use a lot of acronyms that go unexplained or a lot of industry jargon. And even when you're speaking to a hiring manager at another company, it's best to leave that out. And you did a great job doing that. So keep doing that. I felt like your stories were constructed well in the STAR format, the situation, action, and result. Um, I felt like your personal edge and your differentiation was there. I think we could work on that a little bit more. I'll get into that in a bit. Um, your timing and like I said, the length of your responses was good. You want to keep things to 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Um, and remember that, you know, keep doing that. And remember that there's a lot of new information coming to the interviewer. Even if
Right.
they're an experienced engineering manager or product manager or hiring manager or whatever, there's still a lot of new information coming. Not just the words said, but the communication style and a whole bunch of things that factor in. So I think keep doing that. Um, some things to work on. I would say lead with a headline, right?
Okay.
So, I'm most proud of ABC project, and I'm proud of it because of these three things,
Got
right?
it.
Lead with an impactful headline, and then you'll be able to back it up with more detail.
Right.
Um, and that holds true for all the questions. Like what's my leadership style is this, or we had a conflict, and this was the conflict, right?
Got it.
Um, it's kind of like reading the newspaper. You read the headlines or reading the Apple News. Okay, newspaper is fine. Nobody reads newspapers anymore, but reading the Apple News, right? I read Apple News. I read the headlines, and if I'm interested, I dig in, right? So I can
Yes.
get the gist of it from the top. So I think that will really help drive home what you want the interviewer to remember about you. And that's another key thing is keep in mind what you want the hiring manager, the HR recruiter, whomever you're speaking with, the team. What's one thing you want them to remember? But hopefully it's more than one. But what's one thing, right, that you want them to remember about you? What's going to make you
Right.
stand out? Because
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of projects sound similar, right?
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
them do. And the STAR framework or the SAR, depending on who you ask, but the situation, task, action, result framework is very pervasive. So we're
Right.
all we're all structuring our answers that way, and that's fine. That's a good idea. Keep doing that. But what makes you stand out? What makes you different, right? What's your personal edge? Okay.
Right.
What do you want them to remember? Right. Leave them with like, oh, okay, Raghu said this thing that really resonated with me.
Mm.
Right. Um, let's see. What else can I offer here? One thing you can do for practice, let's get into some things you can do for practice, is write down your stories,
Sure.
right? There's plenty of prompts out there, like the ones I gave today, right?
Yeah.
Project you're proud of, your leadership style, conflict resolution. Um, Sometimes ask, how do you work with engineering? But that's more on the product management side. But write down your stories, keep them at about 300 words,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
And your stories, okay, here's something you can take it to the next level. So write down your stories, read them back out loud, and ask yourself, are these the tasks that I did? Is this a very tactical response? Or is
Right.
it more a why it matters response, right?
Mm.
Obviously, there has to be some, right? Clearly, has to be some detail. Like, I worked at this company, I had this role, this is the thing we worked on. The tactical bit is important, but is that the bulk of the response?
Right. Yeah.
Or is the why it matters the bulk? That's where where it becomes memorable, in my opinion. Is
Got
why
it.
this mattered for the business because engineers. I'm just going to make this up, right? Engineers were
Sure.
taking three days to run unit testing, which seems crazy, but
Mm.
whatever it is, like operationally, the team was less efficient than I know that they could have been. And this was impacting our ability to deliver on new features and new products or to land a big customer, right? That sales was really pushing for, or some other business impact or operational impact, right? The why
Mm.
it matters will be very, very memorable in these behavioral stories.
Right.
And always include your role. I will, and say it very plainly. I
Yeah.
was the manager leading the team on this project, and I had 7 people and da 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 da.
Right.
The basics, right?
Yeah.
Which I was able to get through your story. It wasn't completely missing, but make that dead clear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very clear.
Yeah.
Um, um, so yeah, the why it matters. I think that's about it. I think that there's a lot of good things to work on, but again, write down your stories and say them out loud.
Yes.
These are pretty typical behavioral type questions. They want to. It's the tell me about yourself isn't tell me about yourself directly. It's
Yeah.
tell me why I should consider and hire you for this role. How are you going to solve my problem for me as
Right.
a director, a team lead, a VP, or whatever?
Right.
How are you going to, perform as an independent manager and help a team maintain and retain a team to
Right.
not only be productive but also excuse me, happy, right?
Right. Yeah.
And reduce churn, right? Sometimes you bring in a manager and churn happens. We don't, they're worried about things, right? They're worried
Correct.
about team morale and all that. And that's why they ask these tell me about yourself questions, these behaviorals. So
Yeah.
there's a hidden meaning beneath that
Yeah.
kind of generic sounding tell me about yourself. But yeah, I think that's about all the feedback I have.
Sounds good. I think
Um,
this is very valuable feedback, Josh. Thank you so much.